How do you convince a parliament full of skeptical men that women should have the vote? How do you convince other women that their political rights are worth fighting for? These were the questions that the suffragists faced. Their response was often in the form of protest. In this video, we will look at non-violent forms of protest, specifically the time-honored tradition of the march. On February 7, 1907, the National Union of Women's Suffrage Societies marched from Hyde Park to Exeter Hall in the name of Votes for Women. Over 3,000 women attended, despite the English weather's predictably terrible state.
The demonstration of that afternoon was a remarkable one. No procession had ever marched through the streets of London as full of significance, so important, so proving the determination of those it represented, as that afternoon's procession of women.
Why is this warm reception so surprising? Well, in the early 1900s, English society believed in the idea of separate spheres. That is, the idea that women should stay at home and be wives and mothers, while men went out and took part in public life. Seeing so many women gathered in public for a political cause was quite the spectacle. Many in the press admired the strength and dignity these women displayed. The NUWSS Mud March would be the first of many public protests for enfranchisement. Despite the growing number of suffrage societies, supporters, and protesters, Prime Minister Asquith remained unconvinced. He remarked that he may change his mind if he saw what he considered to be real support for the cause. The Women's Social and Political Union responded by holding a massive rally in Hyde Park on June 21, 1908. The WSPU is arguably the most well-known suffrage organization. Led by the charismatic Pankhurst family, the group became known as much for its members' militant antics as their desire for the vote. Yet there is to be no stone-throwing or police brawls at this event. Over 250,000 people attended the rally. 250,000. To put it in perspective, that is approximately the current population of Orlando, Florida. The Times wrote,
"It is impossible to recall anything at all comparable in mere magnitude. That expectation of 250,000 was certainly fulfilled. Probably it was doubled, and it would be difficult to contradict anyone who asserted confidently that it was trebled."
30,000 women took part in the 7 different processions winding through the city and ending in Hyde Park. Though the media enjoyed Women's Sunday, the Daily Express described it as one of the most wonderful and astonishing sights that has ever been seen. Asquith and the rest of Parliament remained unmoved. Many marches and rallies took place between the Mud March of 1907 and the beginning of the First World War. But what exactly happened on a march? Well, other than walking. The point of a procession is to draw the attention of the general public. Through spectacle, protesters hoped to bring attention to their cause. Ideally, those spectators would be impressed enough to look into the cause and even join the movement. Of course, many were neutral, some even hostile. It was not unusual for protesters to be heckled. The Times commended the ladies of the Mud March for remaining undaunted by the jeers of amused spectators. The paper doesn't report what was said, but given the nature of heckling and the gender of those marching, it was probably rather ugly. Kitty Marion remembers a brief exchange with a pedestrian observing a rally.
Approaching a suffrage meeting in Trafalgar Square, I came face to face with a man who was turning away from it with a disparaging gasp. "What are the women coming to?" "Their senses," I said, very emphatically.
Despite the overwhelming evidence that women wanted to have a political voice, much of the public, and the Parliament, remained unconvinced. For some suffragists, it was time to turn up the heat.